What you want me to?
So I'll just share my screen, and then you can I'll drive, and you can we can just chat about the requirements. Let's do this. Okay.
So I'm going to pull up what the customer was asking. Eddie Trislack. I think I still have what he had said.
Oh, did he? I mean, I think in the public channel I saw he just said, yeah, we were working on it, but it didn't get very far. But I don't know. Did he share some more?
Yeah,
specific?
No, that's what I was. No, I was just.
Okay. I mean, yeah, go back and look. I might have missed you. You're probably more active in the Vets Who Code team than I am. There's so much chatter there. I normally don't catch a whole lot. So if there's something that I missed, I know the only thing I saw, I know somebody pinged him about it and said, what's the status of it? And I mean, back when he started working on it, I sort of pulled down a dev version of it, and he just didn't have very much there. I mean, I think, yeah, there wasn't much there at all.
Yeah. Okay. So in response to your message, where you asked about the status, he said it's been indefinitely on hold for a while. I've not had time since starting my new gig. That requirement shifted greatly. At first, I needed something to track troop progress on pre-work, but as of the last cohort, we require students to complete their pre-work before even turning in application, which greatly reduced the number of applications I have to keep track of.
Okay. So that's something
Still
to keep
could
in mind.
use a light application that allows me to track applicants.
So, okay, so that's one piece. So yeah, this is actually a great, let's see, I'm recording, right? Yeah, this is a great, so just for folks following along at home, and I'm posting this, just Greg, I'm posting this on YouTube too. So
yeah, I understand.
There could be people that's not watching this who don't know anything about Vets Who Code or anything like that. So I'll sort of give a general explanation there. For anybody following along, we're going to, Greg and I are both part of vetswhocode.io. Is it .io?
Yeah, .io. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Vetswhocode.io. And one of the apps or one of the needs within the organization is a ability for us to track troops or people who are in the program. And Greg, this brings up a good point, how people approach different things. People have different ideas of what a requirement for an app is. I was director of mentors for 2 years with Vets Who Code. So I was thinking, and my approach was going to be, once people are accepted to the program, we need to match them up. We need to match up a troop with a mentor, and how do we sort of track that? Eddie is approaching it. Eddie was the his role in the organization was I think it's pre-work is what he referred to it as. His sort of approach or his role was that he was when people applied to Vets Who Code, and you've got all this pre-work you have to do,
right?
And then so his job was to sort of keep track of that, and then I guess to accept people into the program based on when they finish that work. So that's sort of a different requirement set, right? That's I'm thinking more of, okay, you're already in the program. How do we keep track of who you are and maybe your progress within the program once you've been accepted, and who your mentor is. And Eddie's thinking, okay, I need something that's going to help track. It seems that so the hard thing there is I don't know. I haven't done that job. Yeah. I didn't do the pre-work job, so I don't know exactly. I mean, I vaguely know, so we can guess. But I think either way, my sense is about how we architect this is to sort of build the way we're going to build this is the hooks will be there. I mean, if you think about it from a minimum viable product standpoint, and so I've got this here, and so you can see what I've got on my screen here, right?
I can, yes.
Yeah. So we need to list students. So let me take another step back. People build apps all kinds of ways. Some people are sort of front end focused, in that they think about sort of what the UI is going to look like, and then they sort of build the back end based on that. I think from a data standpoint, first is generally how I build things, and I say, okay, what data do I need? And then we can do whatever we want. If the data in the database is built right, we can do whatever we want with the front end. So just so you know, that's sort of how I think about things. So we know we need to keep track of students. We know we need to keep track of mentors. So I've got those things listed here. I've got a cohort listed. So thinking about what Eddie's saying though, students / applicants.
Right.
So one way we could do this is you could go in and add an applicant, and then we can hang some pre-work requirements off of that, that's associated with an applicant. And then once they're accepted, you just simply change their status to student. I mean, that's a way to approach it.
I think that sounds right. I've only looked at this, of course, from the applicant perspective, changing over to a student. So I didn't see
well, and
all the bells and
that
whistles
will be
that
helpful.
did,
well,
right?
and that sure. Right, but that will be helpful having that experience, because that's an experience that I haven't had. I've been a student of the program, but sure. So that could be a way to approach this, and so pre-work. I'm just going to have sort of pre-work requirements here.
Yeah.
So what I'm envisioning is, somebody applies officially or formally applies to the program. You're going to go in and, someone is going to go into the system and create, well, now that I'm thinking about it, why not let the applicant apply in the system we're going to make, right? Because
that's where I was hoping you were going to go with it.
Okay, yeah,
that's what makes sense to me is like, we might as well build a or at least hook into the applicant system there, right?
How did you, when you were applying, what was the application process like? Did you just send an email to people or just post on Facebook? I know they're doing some Facebook stuff.
So there was a list of pre-work.
Right.
So I found the website, did the whole apply, and there is a timer saying, hey, we'll be accepting applications for another X days. So I knew I had that many days to complete half a dozen, we'll say, requirements. Once those requirements are done, I would send a GitHub link to have Eddie take a look at it. Okay. And then once Eddie took a look at it, I got a phone call.
Were you just using email to send that, complete those links to him? Or?
It was, it was a form on the webpage that I had to fill. That's what I was actually looking for now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that a public? Because that will give us a sense about the requirements, and we can create. I mean, essentially, what I'm thinking is, we're going to build an app, or essentially a profile. So an applicant will create an account in our system, and then they'll have fields. I mean, just the simplest way to do it is just to have fields for GitHub profile. I don't know what are some of the other.
So I'm looking at the apply page now.
Okay.
And he's got this visit the pre-work repo on GitHub, and then it's once you get done with all of that, you send all your social media URLs, your GitHub, and a link to the hosted assignment as well as the repo link.
Okay, so it's just a single submission you're going to do here, just based on this / because you're on the /apply page, right?
I am on the /apply.
Okay, yeah. So this would be easy enough, essentially, to recreate this in Rails, and essentially, we'll put some authentication. We'll probably use Devise is the authentication gem that's most popular. So we'll probably most likely use that. And the idea here would be applicants. So let's just do a little user story. So the other thing I like to do is what I call them user stories.
Okay.
So let's maybe change this up and see how this works. Applicants, users, applicants will create an account and update/add to their profile. I'll just say pre-work found at, and then we'll put that link in there. And what we'll do is share this with Eddie and others.
Okay.
So that, so then pre-works require, okay, so let's take this out. That makes sense. And then maybe some email notifications would be nice. I bet Eddie would be nice to maybe as email. Let's just do email notifications.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is pushing info to him versus him having to go in and continually look, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking email notifications when user creates a profile / account. When user's profile is updated. And that may be a little much. I mean, in an ideal world, we're starting to get a little sophisticated here. In an ideal world, Eddie or any other admin, we'll talk about the admin side here in a bit, but in an ideal world, they'd be able to choose what notifications they want. Now that may be getting a little sophisticated for what we're going to do, but I'm almost liking the idea. Maybe we'll say that I like the idea of when a profile is created, that admin users or maybe whoever the designated pre-work person. I don't know. Do we have a term for that role?
I don't know. I would just call that person the gatekeeper right now, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the dean of admissions position.
Let's see. Right? What's a good? Well, yeah, but I mean, I want a good sort of singular term. Let's see. I'm just say, how about let's just say pre-work manager.
Okay.
Let's see, email notifications to pre-work manager. So when a profile is created, and then what I'm thinking is the applicant creates their account as they're doing their work, because usually you've got 2-3 weeks a month.
Depends on when you hit it. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, when you're ready to submit it, when you're done, you click the I'm done or the submit link. And at that point, the pre-work manager would get an email notification that your profile is complete, or, whatever. So when applicant has completed all required work, they can formally submit their application, and an email is sent to pre-work manager. Okay, how do we feel about that?
I like it. I think that what I wonder is there any reason at that time to reach out to any of the APIs to get any of that information needs to be sent to Eddie? Or am I getting a little too?
So the email notification that we send, that's going to come from the Rails app, and we can include whatever we want in that email. So yes, we would want to include, we would want to include all this pre-work, all the Twitter profile, URL, the LinkedIn URL. We can include all that in the body of the message that we send. So it's not in that case, it's not an API, because obviously it's coming
out of the back end.
Yeah, it's all coming from the same back end. So applicants, they'll create an account. They've got a profile at that point. Those are just pretty straightforward. I mean, all those are going to be text fields. There's not going to be anything special about them. They can just be string text fields. Pre-work repo link, profile, email. Yeah, all that's pretty straightforward. And then, we can go ahead and copy. We've got the email of the applicant too, so we can probably CC them on the email that Eddie gets.
So I was going to ask,
It's sort of just a sort of a confirmation that's easy enough to do.
Yeah, and from the user perspective, it's nice to know, like, I hit this button and did it just go into a void, or did something come out, right?
Yep.
What happens next?
Yep, confirmation email also sent to applicant.
Okay.
A confirmation email also. Say, just CC, same message goes to pre-work manager.
Yeah, you're right. We got to come up with something better than pre-work manager.
Yeah, I don't like that either. But yeah, absent a better term.
I don't know. Recruiter is the right. I think from the perspective of enlisting, like your recruiter does all this stuff for you. Classifier in the Navy is the other one.
Yeah, we'll sit on that for now. But and the reason it's I think you probably already know, but for others following along at home, one of the hardest things it's an old saying, one of the hardest things in software development is naming things. And what we're going to run into is we're going to need to name this on the back end. When you think of variable names and things, we've got to name these things.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
So it's important not just for your mental model in us making requirements, but again, on the back end, when we go to, actually put a name on it there, then that's going to be maybe a challenge. Okay, well, good. I'm liking that. Now the other question is, and this is a somewhat of a style thing, but do we jump on what we've got here and go ahead and start coding something and then share something with others after we've got a maybe for lack of a better word, a minimum viable product in place, or do we go ahead and share sooner and let the popcorn gallery weigh in? And there's advantages to both. Generally, I think the 100% right way to do it would be, well, let's go ahead and share it first. But sometimes I don't know. I was gonna say, from a clarity standpoint, sometimes it's easier to go ahead and have something people can see, touch, and feel, and you get better feedback that way than if you share requirements like this. But
right,
I'm kind of thinking maybe we share this with Jerome and Eddie. Just maybe we just share it with them in a direct message.
Sure. One thing about the tracker that once Eddie completes his process, so he looked to verify that all the pre-work was done. Then I received a phone call. Then I received an acceptance call afterwards.
Okay.
So do we add that into the requirements of this thing? Because what I didn't ever get was, I feel like an email that said, hey, congratulations on your acceptance. Your cohort start date is X. I think an email to have that to maintain for posterity would have helped.
Yeah, well, that and just it's just a formal. I mean,
it's classy.
Well, we've got the system there to track it. It's easy enough to do. So yes, we need let's see, and so we need an acceptance flag. We need a recruit accepted. I don't know, flag recruit.
Yeah, or like go back and do something else, right? So if the pre-work doesn't cut it,
okay,
result,
right, yeah, excellent point. Right, we need so you need a status, right? We need some kind of so yeah, tracker. Let's do recruit. So let's just think this through. Recruit status. So basically, this is the recruit status. So how about this? What statuses do we want to offer inside the app? They can be accepted, which is, you know, all of the recruits information.
All the pre-work is complete and
yeah, there you
information
go.
is populated.
All the recruits pre-work is acceptable, and recruit is accepted to program. So another status might be
what I think about when I read this is like the world according to Greg is let's remove any subjectivity from what the acceptance is, right?
We want no ambiguity.
Right.
It should not be
and a standard,
ambiguous.
right?
Yeah.
Plus a standard, right? Like you didn't do this. We clearly told you to do this. Go back and check it out. Big guy.
So we need a needs more work or needs things corrected, some kind of status. Yeah.
Correction status.
Something is missing or not up to standard.
Right. And that, I think, is where shaping that is up to VWC standard, right? Because standard can be, like if we didn't have a minimum, nobody ever meet it, right? So there's got to be a minimum of what we want, but at the same token, just because you can make an HTML page doesn't mean you'll be able to complete the cohort based on some of the requirements that ramp up, 8 or 12 weeks into it.
Yeah.
So what that looks like and how that feels, I think having that transparency is relevant.
So recruit status, I'm going to add a note here, recruit status set by pre-work manager. And actually, we could have an under review.
Yeah.
So when it first comes into the system under review, that means, and again, there'll be email notifications set with all these. So the idea is it comes into the system when the pre-work manager first sees it, he can sort of have it under, set it to under.
Yeah, to click
review.
A button to set it under review. Yeah, because Eddie's not sitting at the computer right now, just waiting for some VWC applications to come flooding in. So
but again, keep in mind in the previous section, the pre-work manager will get an email notification when somebody makes an initial submission. But
right.
I guess under review is okay. I'm just wondering if we need some interim status.
Yeah, so I think that under review, it sounds to me like we owe the applicant a timeline on that, right? So your review will be, your account will be looked at within 96 hours or something to that effect.
And I mean, a good way to one way to do this too would be to have anytime a new status or anytime you're submitting a status change, I guess you could have a text box there. So the pre-work manager could put any text in there they wanted to, and then when the email notification goes out to the applicant, that they would get, they'll get a notification. The subject line is going to be Vetsu code notice of status change or
status update,
profile or profile status change, and then whatever the dynamic text the pre-work manager wants to put inside there, any notes, anything like that. So again, if it's under review, so the rejected status might be, some Yahoo that we don't even know makes a submission
a bot
there.
Even.
Or a bot, right? You can just, because you essentially just want to throw that out, or, it could be somebody who has no ties to the military, and, which we do, there's times I think we've accepted folks who don't, if it's a special case, but generally you want a rejected status. So I'm going to say,
so that pre-work manager should have a drop down that selects some of those immediately, so he or she is not sitting there like pinging at it. Right?
Well, there should be a default
text box.
Yeah, there should be a default status. So we'll put submitted here,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
by
All right.
default, the status is going to be submitted.
Okay.
Just say that's default status. So reject is going to throw the application out. Under review is pre-work manager acknowledges. Whoa. Acknowledges submission. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say acknowledges submission. Accepted. All the recruits pre-work is accepted when a recruit is accepted to submission. Accepted to the program. Needs more work. Something is missing. Email notification when any of these statuses.
Statuses. Boy, that's a tough one. Status I? It's like octopus.
Yeah. Maybe a text field available to pre-work manager to enter custom message.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point.
Status.
Because it's not, the status is not always going to be the same, right? The under review.
Yeah, I mean, some of these
it's not
things,
always
right?
going to be the same, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, we can have a, and again, the way to do it, another way to do it would be to have that text field show up, have it pre-populated. So for some of these, for instance, the accepted status, you've already got a pre-populated message there. Congratulations, your application has been accepted. Maybe we insert the date based on the cohort and that kind of stuff. But again, it's a pre-populated free text field. So if that works, just go ahead and hit send to change the status, and they'll get that message. Or you can also click inside there and either remove all that text and put your own message, or you can append or add to what's already in the text box. So okay. Cohort. So let's go ahead and mention that while we're here. And then.
Yeah, so I think that the kind of the process as I see it, and I don't necessarily understand the inner workings there as much as it seemed to be that Eddie needed a phone call to make sure that I wasn't some bot or a robot account or something. So there's like that status becomes after the phone call, that's when you get that acceptance. So I don't know if there's some sort of
that would be another
to put that in there.
Well, yeah, that would be another flag we'd want to put when you use your profile account. So let's see. Well, yeah, that'll just be another flag. I think we can, if that'll be another flag in addition to up here when user's applicant is created, so that the applicant will be filling out these fields. So the phone call is made might just be a flag, a checkbox. It's only available to the administrator to add. If there's anything else like that, again, I haven't done that job, so I don't know. There may be some other things he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
He's doing behind the scene, but so that we'll have to rely on Eddie to maybe give us some feedback there on the other fields he might want. Cohort. So the cohort is set, and what I'm thinking here is cohort is set for each round of applicants.
Excuse me.
So this might, let's see, accepted status email might include start dates or other info based on specific cohort. So again, we just need to think about what the implementation would look like. But the idea is at any given time, you can set what the cohort is. you
Right.
know, spring of
Yeah.
2021, fall 2021. And then
Yeah.
again, things like the, well, that cohort date is, you know, that cohort's going to have a application deadline. I know that
Right.
that's one thing. So, so we just need to think about all those things.
Yeah. I wonder if at that time, so I'm 60 days out from starting the cohort. What do I just sit around and stare at the wall for 60 days? Or is there things that I can do in between here and there? And maybe Eddie or Jerome or one of the other instructors has some, 2 or 3 resources to say, hey, later on, you're going to be needing to know how to, like, I don't want to intimidate anybody. We're not landing people on Mars tomorrow with this
No,
thing,
yeah.
but there may be a couple of low hanging fruit resources that are relevant in the meantime.
Just thinking about other items to track, you mentioned the phone call, and I don't know if that's, maybe that was maybe that was a result of the lack of not having a more formal app in place, or it sounds like a nice way to, a nice way to get in touch with folks and have a sort of have more of a high touch,
It's acceptance into the
interaction.
community, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, that's one thing we can check. Again, this would be on the admin side, what the pre-work manager would track. Also, Slack account.
Yep. Open in Slack. Yep.
Let's see, add to, I'm going to say, add to Slack. Right offhand, those are the only things I can think of. Okay.
Added to the Vets Who Code GitHub account, right? So there's a Vets Who Code cohort group there,
let's see.
like a repo.
Yeah, GitHub. I think it's the organization is what they.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just tracking. I'm going to say. And then also notes, sort of private notes. Again, the idea there is I'm going to say these are notes. These are notes the applicant does not see. And again, down the road, when we assign a mentor to this person, I like the idea of having mentor notes. And, I mean, they may be public or they may be private, but. Okay, anything else on the applicant side? So just again, starting from the top, applicant, user or applicant creates an account. Their profile essentially has everything that we currently have on vetswhocode.io/apply.
Hold on just a second, I lost you here.
Check, testing.
I can't hear you.
Testing, check.
Yep, I can hear you now.
You're back, okay. So just sort of walk through it again from the top. Applicants will create an account in the system. Part of their profile will be basically all the fields that are currently in vetswhocode.io/apply. So the idea is once they've created a profile account, they can go back and just update that as they get things done. So it'll be the advantage. I mean, obviously there's advantage to the applicants too. That it's at one place for them to keep track of their things that they've done, and they can update that profile as they complete the different pre-work
as they move along. Yeah.
assignments. Yeah. Profile account. So once they've completed all the pre-work, when it's ready, they can actually hit a submit or apply now button.
Right. Yeah.
When they do that, a confirmation email will go to the pre-work manager. We'll also CC the applicant on that, and we can include whatever we want in that, but at a minimum, their profile, all the links and the information they've put in their profile will be included in that email. So at that point, the recruit status will be updated by the pre-work manager. When they first create an account without having done anything, now that I'm reading that, rather than submitted, how about applied? Probably makes more sense.
Yeah.
So by default, when someone creates a profile, the status will be applied. And again, we'll have email notifications every time someone changes. And when they apply, when they first create an account, we'll have an email will go to the pre-work manager. And again, we can CC the applicant on that too. Rejected allows you to throw the application with, then again, this would be the pre-work manager is going to do all these things. Rejected will allow you to just throw the application out. Either it's spam, or maybe someone that's just not qualified or not who we're looking for. You can just immediately throw it out. Under review, the idea there is the pre-work manager acknowledges this submission and that they're, and again, just it'll be a nice email notification for the applicant to get. Accepted, again, this is after the submission is made. Accepted status is, all the recruits pre-work is, acceptable, up to standard, well, whatever, but at that point, the idea is that they're accepted to the program. Needs more work, something's missing or not up to standard. Again, for all of these, we'll have a text box where pre-work manager can add notes if they want. Email notifications. Okay. Email notifications for all these. Maybe a text field available. Yeah. Okay. Cohort, and so we're going to need a cohort to be set for each round of applicants. And then the idea there is when someone's making a submission, we're going to be applying a sort of what cohort they're part of. And I mean, the idea is from a historical standpoint, it would be nice, like think about it now, how nice would it be to be able to go back and look at all the cohorts and be able to view, the students in each cohort, what their, all of their work submissions, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Other items to track, whether a phone call is made, adding them to Slack, adding to the VWC GitHub organization, GitHub organization, and then private notes. Cool.
Yeah, I think that captures what we need as a minimum viable product.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, some of these things will be, I mean, I've done most of these, but some of these things I haven't quite done. So it'll be a challenge. So what I'm seeing is data-wise, and again, when I look at these requirements, again, my mind, so now thinking about, and so we've sort of approached this more from a UI standpoint of saying, okay, like, what do we want the sort of interface and the workflow of it to look like? So next thing I start to think about, and again, we'll do this when we start to think about scaffolding and how we actually build the Rails app, is what do we want the data to look like on the back end? So I'll pose this to you and tell me what thoughts you have. Is what database, looking at this, what database tables are we going to need?
Okay, so, well, we need this account, like a user account table.
Right. And so that could be, and again, the naming is important, so we just want to think about it, but it could be either, account, could be user, could be applicant.
Yeah, okay.
But again, we need to think about it. So you think about the full life cycle of what this account is going to look like, right? So they're an applicant when they start, but then they're going to be a student, and then they're going to be a vet at some point, or I don't know, what the term is. They'll be a graduate at some point. So we may want to stay away from specific. So, user might be the way to go. And, thinking about whether you're a pre-work manager or whether you're just an admin user, we're probably going to have an admin flag. So again, thinking longer term, let's say Greg, you were an applicant at one point, you were a student, you were a graduate, you may be director of mentors at some point, you may be pre-work manager at some point. So probably the more generic we can stay with the whatever the account name. So probably user is what we'll stick with there. And then what we'll do is have an admin flag
Okay.
that's a part of, or an admin field that's going to be true false for the user account.
Okay.
And or we can have roles too. Like another way to approach this is, every user has a role, and that role could be, again, just to take it all the way. The most sophisticated, the role could be applicant, student, graduate, director of mentors. So that's probably getting, sort of an easy way to implement it up front would just be. And this is what my recommendation would be. For now, we just have a admin flag, and we just set it to true false. And if it's false, by default, in fact, when you first sign up, by default, that admin flag is going to be false. And that's essentially means you sort of have student status. And then if we want you to have admin status, if you want to be able to go into the back end and look at things, then we just set that admin flag to true. And then, like say, we could refactor later on and add a role flag. And then if we wanted to get more granular with the rights and permissions that users have, then we could go in and do it with role. But I think the way to do it up front would just be to have an admin flag. We'd set to true or false. Okay, so we've got a user table that's going to track our users, and everybody's going to be in there, whether you're an admin or whether you're a student applicant, whatever. What other database tables do you see?
Well, we'll need to have that status, the recruit status there. So that seems to be a pre-work table.
Let's think about that.
So we need a user account. We need a pre-work status table.
I don't know if let's play that out and see if there's any advantages. So the simple way to do it would be to just each of those fields, each user is going to have a field. So basically what we see on vetsucode.io/apply,
Okay.
all of that is going to be associated with the user account, first name, last name. And I don't think there's any argument there. Certainly first name, last name, email, zip, city, state, country, branch of service, year joined, year separated, Twitter profile. Yeah. All of those are going to be specific to the user. So in my mind, you just add those. To me, those are just going to be attributes that are associated with the user. So there's just going to be fields in the user table.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any advantage to breaking. You could have a pre-work table, but obviously the next step or the complication is you've got to create associations between this pre-work table and this user model. And that's unnecessary in my mind, unless you can convince me or someone can convince me otherwise. That's unnecessary complication.
Okay, so you need to have the admin side. We've got a user account, so you've got to have an admin table that allows acceptance into the cohort. And then you're able to, from the admin, do other things. But that'll all be under the user because the flag is there.
I was going to say it's right. And
So
again, all you can manage all that in the user. And so
in the user table.
Yeah, and you'll see this inside Rails. Again, think about our model view controller is
Right.
The way writes, and sort of when you talk about from an authentication standpoint, generally things are managed at the controller level.
Right.
So there'll be views and there'll be fields that will be limited to admin users, and we can do all that inside the controllers. And essentially it'll say you'll have an is you'll have an is admin line of code. And if the person's in admin, then they'll be able to see this field. If they're not an admin, then they won't be able to see that field. And generally that works fairly well. That's fairly manageable.
Okay.
And again, it's done at the controller, it's done at controller level. So not only is the view being limited, but even if you could like send an API call or sort of hack the system, you still wouldn't, when that when the user check is made to verify who the user is, it's going to limit their ability to be able to do anything. You know, for instance, if it's for instance changing the status of a user, okay. It's going to limit your ability to do that.
Yeah. So does there need to be sort of like a messages controller then, from the perspective of?
So let me think about mail. It's been a while since I've done mail. So as far as the email, stuff goes, we'll need to walk through how. So Rails has, again, as far as the Rails way goes, Rails has a way to do mail, and yes, okay. It has its own set of classes, controllers, and everything that handle emails. And essentially, what we'll do is just make calls to the emails, you know, the messages of the email controller inside Rails at various points. So again, you know, just again that example of when the status changes, anytime there's a change to that status, we'll look at what the change is. I think we'll essentially look at what the new status is, and based on what that new status is, we'll send the email message, you know, a specific email message for that particular status change.
And then, so to answer your initial question of whether we need a, you know, as I look at the table in the database here in my brain, I've got users. Is there a need for a messages database then? Or?
No. Well, I mean,
because it's all, I mean, it depends. I guess it depends on how scalable it needs to be.
Well, Rails takes care of that for. I mean, it's good that you're thinking about that, but Rails is going to take care of that for us. The email, the underlying wiring that Rails uses for email, there are some database stuff that it does, but essentially that's hidden from us as developers, and so we don't need to worry about that. Again, we'll be worrying about some of the controller things and those kind of things for messages, but we don't need to worry about any database management as far as email goes.
Okay, so then any of the flags that are set for mentors, does that need to be a separate database, the group of mentors?
Let's hold off on that. Let's do it, because we're approaching our hour here. So, but to answer your question, no, I think there's going to be, again, you know, just based on the conversation we're having here, again, we'll flesh this out a little more, but mentors are going to be users. So
it's just a flag, right?
But I am seeing one other database table. I don't think we're going to get by with just the users table. So keep looking through our requirements and see if I do see one other. I think I see one other database table we're going to want.
Just the pre-work itself, I guess. Yeah.
No, because again, we said pre-work is going to be, we're going to hang that off each user account.
The cohort?
Yeah, so I'm thinking the cohort is.
Once you flag the user, you're then going to send them to a cohort. We're going to
build we've got to associate, we've got to create an association between a cohort, because again, there's a many-to-many relationship
so
there, right?
User belongs to
I'm sorry,
cohort
it's
has
many to
users.
one. Yeah, well, that's actually a one-to-many association, right? One to many. One user is associated with one cohort. One cohort can have many
cohort has many
users.
User belongs to.
Yeah, or right. And using the Rails nomenclature, a user or a cohort belongs to or has, a cohort has many has
There you
many
go.
users. Yes, I'm thinking a
There you go.
cohort
Yeah,
is going to be
okay.
a database table we're going to want to create. And that'll just be an administrative function that the pre-work manager, let's say, or whoever, admin's got to go in there and create a new cohort. I mean, those, we don't follow, Betsuko doesn't follow a set schedule. So just like when we know when the next cohort is, somebody's going to have to log into the system, create that new cohort,
Yeah.
set the dates, again, whatever the dates for the actual cohort are, if there's a registration or an application deadline, and again, I don't know any other, but any other specific information that's associated with a cohort, we'll need to add that stuff. And then the idea there is that way when, I think what we could do is, at that point, you would set, I don't know if we'd want to make it manually available when an applicant applies, let's say based on the time frame, they automatically get associated with that cohort.
Right.
But other than that, I think, yeah, right now, all I'm seeing is two database tables, a
Users,
user
cohort.
table and a cohort table.
Okay.
Okay, good. We are.
Thanks for
at
letting me
time.
walk through that in my head there. So
No,
I appreciate
and
that.
I wanted to do it too. It's good for me because I can't hold that stuff in my head, or it just doesn't come to me. Usually the way I have to do it is just start talking my way through it, and I'm like, well, no, that won't work because it did this other thing. So it's good for me to be able to do it too. So I think what we'll do is share these things with, well, I don't know, screw it. Let's just, generally I'm a sunlight is the best disinfectant kind of guy. So let's just put it out in the general BDoc channel and just tell folks, hey, this is what we're doing, and we'll ping Eddie. I'll at Eddie specifically, and I may clean this up a little bit to have if the user stories. That's the other thing. Like, you spend an hour looking at it, and like it makes sense to us now because we spent an hour really digging into the weeds on it. But then you just share it with somebody in Slack. And how does it look to someone's eyes?
Yeah, like where's the Rosetta Stone with this?
Who was just
right?
how does it look to them when they haven't had the context of us walking our way through it? So we'll see what they say.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So we'll think about this, and then we may either add or take away from it. I think we've probably got enough to get started. Maybe next week we'll start to think about. And I mean, if you have time to, you've got access to this document, so feel free to go in here and add notes or comment on it or whatever.
I'm gonna have to ping you for the edit access on that, and then.
Well, I'll do it right now. I thought.
Okay.
I think anyone can view. So what I'm gonna do is add you. What's your email?
Greg.a.curl.
Surprised that's not showing up. I guess I don't think I've actually sent an email to you in Gmail. So let me copy and paste it. Well, it's greg.a.curl@gmail?
That's it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Enough. And I want to give you, there it is.
And then
I want to give you editor access.
Okay. And then next week's lesson, I'll go through week 3.
Yeah, let's go through week 3, and I'll do the same thing. Are you okay with the way we've been doing that?
I am. Yeah, I think that's.
Hear me?
I mean, if something
off for an hour.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if something blows up or I can't figure it out, that's when.
Okay. We'll see how sophisticated their app. Yeah, we'll see how sophisticated his apps get. Again, I think I went through the first. I previously at some point I think went through the first 2 weeks, but I haven't gone any farther I think than what we've gone now. So it'll all be new to me going forward. Okay. So it'll be fun to sort of use that as our Monday work, is to formally go through that, and then we can use our Wednesday time. Let's see. I'll probably go ahead and cancel it week after next. I'll be gone. Let me think. I'm leaving. Should be back on Wednesday. Monday, I've got to take my dad to a doctor's appointment that Monday. Okay. But I think I'm going to be back. I should be back on Wednesday, but I'll cancel it in Google Calendar, and you should get a notification about that.
Awesome.
as far as this goes, I think,
Appreciate
I think what I want to do, maybe next week is we don't have to go in as much detail for this other stuff because I think we've got enough to get started up here, but maybe let's just go through these just to think, okay, is there anything else we want to do at least to this applicants section? Is there any other features or things architect wise we should go ahead and build in before we start building anything here? Because you don't want to, it's just, it's exponentially more work to have to go back after the fact and try and maybe add or modify something. So maybe what we do is just spend some time. Again, we won't go into as much detail as we did for this section, but just mentally walk through some of these other features we might want. And then if we feel like we're good with what we've got, we've definitely got enough to start doing some work. We can do our scaffolding and put that in place, create a GitHub repo for it, and start making commits to it. And again, we'll share it in Slack. And so we may hopefully Eddie
Get some
or
feedback.
hopefully Eddie or Jerome doesn't come in and blow the whole thing up for us and say, well, no, that's all wrong. We don't want that. In which case we might say, you know what, screw it. We're going to build it anyway. And
right. We'll build something.
Well, and the other thing is Eddie and Jerome both know Rails. So if you don't like it, then change it.
Sure. Sounds good.
All righty.
All
Cool,
righty,
man.
sir. Appreciate it. Enjoy
Thank
your
you.
weekend.
Have a good rest of the week.
You too.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.